Looking at the side of the paper that says teacher directed. All right, let's make sure we're all looking. The two sides look the same. Make sure you're looking at the part that says teacher directed, correct? All right, so with the teacher directed side, you see that we have a span of 5 feet. All right, so if we have a span of 5 feet, what's the run of this house? 2.5, 2.5 feet. All right. We have a 412 slope with a 2-inch overhang. Okay, so if we draw that in with our fancy drawing of a house, we know that we have a 5-foot span. Therefore, the run is 2.5 feet. The slope of our roof is a 412. And for this one, we have a 2-inch overhang. So we're just going to repeat the calculations we've been doing. According to the framing square here, for a 412 slope, we have a common rafter length per foot of run of 12.65. 12.65 inches. The run is 2.5 feet. So we have, we're going to do a multiplication here. It's 2.5 times 12.65. But that's okay. We got calculators available to us. So 2.5 times 12.65 is 31.625 inches. All right, and that just so happens that we don't even need to round that. That is perfectly to an eighth. So we have 31 5/8 of an inch. No rounding necessary. The overhang from the top of the sheet told us that it was 2 inches. And remember, this number never changes. The width of the ridge beam is 3/4 of an inch. So to calculate the total common rafter length, remember from 1 to 2, that was from part D. That's 31 5/8 inch. We have our overhang from 2 to 3, that's 2 inches. We have the distance from 1 to 5, which is 3/4 of an inch. So we need to add the distance from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, and then remove the distance from 1 to 5. So that's why it's 31 5/8 of an inch plus 2 inches minus 3/4 of an inch. The calculator can help if we just do that all as decimals. 31.625 plus 2 minus 0.75. We get 32.875, and that poster in the room tells us that 32 and 0.875 is 7/8 of an inch. All right, so all of that is repeated. I'll just kind of put this on from 5 to 3 is 32 7/8 of an inch. So that's all repeated, just new numbers, but the same calculation process as always. Now, the new part is when we're doing our layout. Okay, so doing the layout, we have to transfer this information onto our rafter. All right, and we're practicing with our paper here. So just like we have in the bottom here, we're going to start in the upper left corner of our paper. All right, in the upper left corner of our paper, so maybe work one at a time. Remember, we hold the framing square as a check mark, the thin tongue on the left, the blade on the right. Tongue and blade. All right. What measurement are we looking for? What measurement are we looking for on the tongue? Can anyone remind me? The 4, right? The rise. Good. The 4 from on the outside, you're looking for the 4. That's right here on mine. On the blade, on the outside edge of the blade, what are we looking for? 12. Good. And so do you remember which side of the rafter do we put those measurements on? We put them on the top or the bottom? The framing square always measures on the bottom. That way, it will actually go across your entire rafter. So we put the 4 right here and the 12 right here. So we're putting the 4 and the 12 on the bottom edge of the paper. There we have it. I have 4 here. I have 12 here. And then I just need to slide it over, keeping the 4 and the 12, slide it over until I'm on the corner of that paper. So 4 here, 12 here, and I'm on that top left corner. So again, 4 here, 12 here on the bottom edge, 4 on the tongue, 12 on the blade, 1 on the top left corner. And then you just trace this part here. That's our line 1. How do we mark line 2? What's the distance between lines 1 and line 2? According to this piece of paper, the calculations, 31 5/8. So you take out a tape measure, you just move your framing square away for a second, along the top edge of the board, the top edge of the paper, you measure 31 5/8 of an inch. All right, so from the top left corner, you measure over 31 5/8. Make sure you can accurately identify 5/8. Work with your partners. 31 5/8. You put a little tick mark at 31 5/8. Once you have that mark at the top of line 2, you do the exact same thing you did for line 1. What I mean by that is you do your 412 along the bottom edge, 412 along the bottom edge, and line it up on that dot. 412 on the bottom edge, line it up on that dot. And then put in that mark. 412 on the bottom, put it on the dot on the top. That's line 2. All right. Line 3, which is the overhang. So again, the overhang distance from line 2 to line 3 is 2 inches. So the proper way to do this is from the top of line 2, you measure over the overhang. That's 2 inches. That would be put right there. And then again, the exact same thing we did before. You put your 4 and your 12 on the bottom of this. Our paper is just long enough, just barely long enough to do this. Should be. So the 12 is right at the end of the board. 4, 12, and there is my overhang right there for line 3. All right. Line 4, things get a little bit different. What you have to do is you have to measure up from the bottom of line 2 up 1.5 inches, the thickness of a 2x, and then put in a perpendicular line. Make sure it's a nice right angle. All right, so you can measure that 1.5 inches in 2 ways. You could use the tape measure, follow that line, and put in a tick mark. All right, Or you can use the framing square. And again, line it up nice and perfect. So you should have the 1.5 mark here. And you have the corner up top. The framing square is what's going to give you that perfect right angle. Hopefully you're really being careful here and holding it. So you really want to line it up here on that line 2. Make sure you have 1.5 inches. And then trace that over to give you your bird's mouth cut. That's the seat cut of your bird's mouth. That's line 4, and that should be a right angle. All right, take your time with that one. That's the only one that's a very different line. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually put in line 5 because line 5 is just a repeat of lines 2 and 3, just a very slight different measurement. So if you go all the way back to line 1, the offset from line 1 to line 5 is half the thickness of a 2x. Any 2x is always 1.5 inches thick, so half of that is 3/4 of an inch. So from the top edge, you measure over 3/4 of an inch. Again, please pay attention to your tape measure. Make sure you are marking the 3/4 inch mark, not the half, not the full inch, 3/4. Excuse me. Then you're doing your slope on the bottom edge. For us, on this example, it's a 412. All right, 4 here, 12 here. It's on that mark, 412. All right, put in line 5. All right, and there you have your full layout for a rafter. The actual cut marks are going to be, you're going to cut line 5, you're going to cut line 3, and you're going to cut 4 and part of 2. All right, but for right now, it's just layout. If you have any questions, please check in.